Black rain is falling on Tehran. Not a metaphor. Literal black rain. Oil-soaked clouds descending on a city of 9 million people after wave of American and Israeli strikes turned Iran's oil depots into infernos so massive they have blotted out the sun. Sewage lines are burning. Fire is moving through the streets like rivers. The air is toxic. And in Washington, the man who ordered all of this picked up the phone, called ABC News, and said, "I am not worried about anything at all." That is where we are. The President of the United States launched a war that has shut down the Strait of Hormuz for the first time in 80 years, sent energy markets into freefall, killed American soldiers whose names were read on national television this weekend, triggered retaliatory strikes from Tehran to Tel Aviv to Bahrain to Kuwait, destroyed hospitals, destroyed refineries, destroyed freshwater desalination plants, the infrastructure that keeps people alive in a region where purified water is more strategically vital than oil. And his response to all of that, on ABC News, to a reporter asking the most basic questions any wartime president should be prepared to answer? It is a little glitch. We had to take this detour. A detour. That is the word the commander-in-chief of the United States military used to describe a conflict that has engulfed the entire Middle East, produced scenes that look like the end of the world, and left Iran's foreign minister on American television this morning saying, "No, we are not interested in your ceasefire. Not this time." Let me show you exactly what happened this weekend. 3 moments, 3 receipts, 3 windows into a machine that is running without brakes. Receipt number 1, the ABC interview. Trump calls ABC News. Reporter Mary Bruce asks him the questions every American deserves an answer to. Are you worried about the risk to Americans at home? Are you worried about terrorist retaliation? Are you worried about the economic fallout, the rising gas prices, the impact on working families who are already stretched past the breaking point? His answer, "I am not worried about anything at all. I think it is fine. It is a little glitch. We had to take this detour. I knew exactly what was going to happen with the detour." A detour. American soldiers came home in flag-draped coffins this weekend, 6 of them. The Middle East is burning from end to end. The Strait of Hormuz has gone dark. And the President of the United States called it a detour. But then it gets worse. In the same call, Trump says everything is on the table, including ground forces, including reports of special forces being sent into Iran to capture enriched uranium. And then perhaps the most revealing line of the entire interview, Trump says that if Iran chooses its next supreme leader without consulting him personally, the new one will not last long. He wants to handpick the supreme leader of a sovereign nation of 90 million people. That is not strategy. That is delusion dressed up as strength. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a war that ends and a war that consumes everything around it. Receipt number 2, the Lindsey Graham doctrine. Trump sends Graham onto the morning shows, and what follows is one of the most disturbing pieces of television produced during this entire conflict. Graham appears on camera wearing a hat that reads, "Free Cuba," and another that reads, "Make Iran Great," and he delivers what can only be described as a wartime infomercial. His exact words, "We are marching through the world. We are cleaning out the bad guys. Iran is going down and Cuba is next." Let that land. A sitting United States senator on national television during an active war that has already killed American service members, pitching the next war before this one is anywhere close to finished. He calls Trump the greatest commander-in-chief of all time. He says, "You just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks. We are going to blow the hell out of these people." Then he turns to America's Arab allies, countries whose infrastructure is being shredded in this crossfire, and says, "If you want a treaty with the United States, you need to get in this fight." That is not diplomacy. That is extortion with a merchandise table. And the fact that Graham sells Trump on expanding wars by handing him branded hats tells you everything about who is actually driving strategy in this administration. The answer is nobody. There is no strategy. There is a mood. There is an impulse. There is a senator in a gift shop hat announcing a world tour of destruction. But there is no plan, no defined objective. No answer to the question Matt Masdam, a Navy SEAL who carried the nuclear codes for a president, asked plainly and directly. What is the mission? What is the plan to accomplish it? How and when does this end? Nobody in Washington has answered those questions, because nobody in Washington apparently asked them before the bombs started falling. Receipt number 3, the Fox News cover-up at Dover. This one is quieter, but it might be the most telling receipt of the entire weekend. 6 American service members came home at Dover Air Force Base this weekend. A dignified transfer. The most solemn ceremony the United States military performs. The moment when a war stops being a news story and becomes something real and irreversible and human. Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Moore, Sergeant First Class Noah Tenz, Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert Marzison. Every single one of them, a hero. Every single one of them, deserving of a ceremony unmarked by politics, by branding, by the apparatus of a man who treats everything, including grief, as content. Trump attended wearing his $55 campaign hat, the same hat he is currently selling on his website. Fox News aired the ceremony, except they did not air the actual ceremony. They ran footage from a previous dignified transfer from Trump's first term one, where he was not wearing the campaign hat. They got caught. They issued an on-air correction, calling it an inadvertent error. But think about that for a moment. Fox News accidentally made the president look more dignified at a military funeral. That is the correction they had to issue. And the question that correction raises is the one nobody at Fox wants to answer. If the campaign hat was not a problem, why did they swap the footage? Those 6 names deserve better than that. Every single one of them. Now, here's the part that changes everything. The part the White House clearly did not see coming. While Trump was telling ABC he is not worried about anything, while Graham was announcing a world tour in a free Cuba hat, Iran's foreign minister went on Meet the Press and delivered something the administration had no answer for. Calm, calculated, defiant. He laid out the logic with surgical precision. Last time you attacked us, we accepted the ceasefire in good faith. You used that pause to rearm and attack us again. You bombed our schools, our hospitals, our water supply. So no, we are not accepting another ceasefire. There should be a permanent end to the war, and until we get that, we will continue fighting. That is not bluster. That is a negotiating position built on pattern recognition. Iran watched what happened the last time it showed restraint. It learned. And now it has made a strategic decision to drag this war out, to absorb the punishment, to keep firing, to make this conflict so costly and so prolonged that the pressure shifts back onto Washington. The evidence says it is already working. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil moves, is effectively shut down. Kuwait's petroleum chief says tanker traffic has dropped to practically zero for the first time in 80 years. Iraqi oil output has plunged 60%. Qatar has shut down liquefied natural gas production. Iran struck Kuwait's social security building. Iran hit Bahrain's desalination plants after the United States destroyed theirs. And the UAE, despite senior Israeli officials publicly claiming Abu Dhabi was helping strike Iran, issued a furious denial, calling those statements damaging to the relationship and insisting the Emiratis are operating in a purely defensive posture. America's allies in the Gulf are not rallying to the flag. They are distancing themselves quietly, carefully, but unmistakably. And the economic consequences are coming for every American who fills up a car, buys groceries, or has a retirement account. Analysts are projecting that food, energy, airlines, transport, and insurance will all take significant hits, potentially pushing consumer price inflation above 4% by April or May. The Hormuz shutdown alone is enough to send energy markets into sustained chaos. And once supply chains reroute, once companies restructure around new shipping lanes and new energy sources, those changes do not simply reverse because a ceasefire gets signed 6 months later. The economic damage embeds itself. So where does this go? There are 3 paths, none of them clean. The first is a managed off-ramp. Back-channel pressure from Gulf states, European allies, and American business interests forces a genuine ceasefire. Both sides claim victory. Trump calls it the greatest deal ever made. Iran tells its people they stood firm. Hormuz reopens, markets stabilize, but the structural damage remains. The trust is gone. The architecture that held the Middle East together does not reassemble just because the shooting stops. The second is regional realignment. The Gulf states that watch their desalination plants burn, watch their oil infrastructure get caught in the crossfire, watch the UAE have to publicly deny involvement in a war being fought in their backyard. Those states start making different calculations, quietly building deeper ties with China, with India, with anyone not currently bombing their neighbors. The United States remains the biggest player in the room, but it is no longer the unquestioned center. And once that monopoly on strategic loyalty fractures, it does not come back. The third path is the one Lindsey Graham already named out loud while wearing a free Cuba hat: ground forces, special operations inside Iran. Regime change in a nation of 90 million people with hardened military infrastructure and a population that, whatever it thinks of its own government, will not welcome American soldiers. Cuba added to the list. The marching through the world doctrine becomes actual operational policy, and the war that started as a little glitch becomes the defining catastrophe of a generation. Here is what I know for certain. Whatever happens next, the Middle East that existed before this war is not coming back. Even if Trump reverses course tomorrow, the lesson has been learned by Iran, by the Gulf states, by every mid-sized power watching this unfold from a careful distance. The lesson is simple. Never put all your strategic eggs in one basket, because that basket might get handed to someone who calls a regional war a detour, who wears a campaign hat to a military funeral, who wants to personally select the next supreme leader of Iran, Who sends Lindsey Graham onto morning television in a free Cuba hat to announce the next war before this one has a casualty count anyone is willing to publish. Iran's foreign minister said no ceasefire on live American television this morning. Trump said he is not worried about anything at all. 6 Americans came home in flag-draped coffins this weekend while Fox News quietly swapped the footage. And Lindsey Graham is already shopping for hats for the Cuba campaign. Subscribe, because this is not slowing down, and you need to be here when the next piece drops.